Welcome to the Deep Dive Library, your go-to podcast for real talks on entrepreneurship, finance, and personal growth. No fluff, just bold insights to help you grow, build, and lead. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's jump straight into it. We've got a fantastic stack of sources today, articles, research, insights from some really impactful books, all provided by you, our listener. And it's all covering that timeless quest, figuring out the habits, the mindsets, the strategies that really contribute to success. Our mission here is to unpack all this stuff and find the most powerful nuggets of knowledge specifically for you. We're diving into what drives successful people, how they structure their days, how they handle challenges, and keep learning.
It's a really rich collection, actually, and you see some themes pop up pretty quickly. It's less about like some secret magic formula,
Right.
and more about consistent, deliberate practice, especially starting with the internal stuff, your mindset.
That feels like the perfect place to kick things off.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that internal game. Mindset, discipline, consistency. What are these sources telling us about building that up? Well, there's several pieces, from places like More Momentum and James Clear's Atomic Habits. They really highlight this key difference between discipline and consistency. Discipline is that initial burst of energy, right? That push of willpower you need to get going, especially when motivation's low.
Like forcing yourself out the door for that run.
Exactly. Or sitting down to write when you'd rather do, anything else. It's overcoming that inertia, like you said.
Okay.
But consistency, that's the sustaining force. It's showing up again tomorrow and the day after that.
Yeah.
Turning that first disciplined action into a regular thing. James Clear really emphasizes that discipline gets you started, but consistency is what actually creates progress.
And the impact of that consistency, even tiny bits of it, that seems to be where the real power lies.
Oh, absolutely. Think about compound interest, but for yourself, for self-improvement. Atomic Habits explains this so well, getting just 1% better each day for a year. It doesn't just add up, it multiplies. Yeah, you end up something like 37 times better by the end of the year. It's wild. And the flip side is true too. Get 1% worse consistently, and you're basically back at zero.
Wow.
It's those tiny, almost invisible daily efforts that build up into huge changes over time, even if you don't feel the big leaps happening right away.
That's such a powerful way to think about it. It's not about these massive, heroic efforts every single day.
No.
Just consistently showing up and making that small improvement, which connects to that idea of focusing on systems, not just goals, right? Scott Adams, James Clear, they both talk about
Yes, that's a core idea. Goals are the results, winning the championship, getting the promotion.
finish line.
Right, but systems are the processes that get you there. How you train, how you improve your skills day to day,
Yeah.
how you manage your workflow. If your system is solid and you stick with it, the goals often just happen. You kind of fall in love with the doing, not just the achieving.
And committing to that process, building those consistent systems, that seems really tied into who you believe you are, doesn't it?
That's the identity piece from Atomic Habits, yeah.
Yeah.
Your habits often reflect your self-image. So if you want to build a reading habit, it helps to start thinking of yourself as a reader.
Okay.
Your actions then reinforce that identity, and the identity reinforces the actions. It's a loop. You're not just doing the habit, you're proving to yourself who you're becoming.
Okay, so cultivating that internal belief, focusing on the process, that's key. How does something like mindful productivity fit in here? Wesley Evans Smith's work.
That adds another interesting layer. It's not just about being present, like basic mindfulness. It's about applying focused, conscious strategies to your work without letting stress run the show.
So being intentional.
Very intentional about where your attention and energy go.
And he uses some cool analogies, right?
He does. Like the reward-based motivation thing. His old teacher, Mr. Mason, had a mason jar. Filled it with marbles for good behavior.
Right, I remember reading that.
And the class got a reward when it was full. Smith actually does this himself, using marbles to track concrete accomplishments each day. It's simple, tangible.
Like gamifying your own progress a bit.
Kind of, yeah. And related to that is taking ownership of your time.
Crucial.
Mindful productivity really stresses this. You are the boss of your time. You decide the priorities. Own those choices, no guilt. That conscious decision is part of the system.
This all keeps coming back to mindset, doesn't it? Dr. Carol Dweck's work on the growth mindset that feels foundational here. It's mentioned in a few places.
It really is. The growth mindset, believing your abilities, can be developed through effort and learning. Apply that to habits. It means you see self-control and consistency not as fixed things you either have or don't.
But as skills.
Skills you can actually get better at. Challenges become opportunities.
Yeah.
Setbacks.
Yeah.
Just data telling you where to tweak things.
So your internal state, your mindset, your emotions really shapes your ability to make choices and stick to the plan. Napoleon Hill, in Think and Grow Rich, he hits on these deep internal drivers too.
Oh yeah, Hill goes deep. Intense desire, he says. That's the absolute starting point. Then faith, persistence, autosuggestion, deliberately feeding your subconscious positive focused stuff.
Right.
And he calls self-discipline the hardest job conquering yourself. Enthusiasm, too. He sees that as vital, contagious. It's that inner drive made visible.
Okay, that really lays a solid foundation for the inner game. Now let's shift a bit. With that mindset in place, how do successful people often structure their days? Starting with maybe the most talked about part, the morning.
Yeah, the mornings get a lot of attention in these sources. Many successful folks are really deliberate about those early hours. Pure Bookkeeping mentions research by Laura Vanderkam showing lots of execs are early risers.
Like who?
Well, examples like Indra Nooyi at PepsiCo waking at 4 a.m., Bob Iger at Disney at 4:30, Jack Dorsey at 5:30.
Wow, that's early. But I guess the point isn't just the time, it's controlling that clock before the day's chaos starts.
Exactly. It's often the only predictable window for focused personal work. Like that history teacher writing her book between 6 and 9 a.m.
Making it non-negotiable.
Right. It ensured it got done, despite a busy life.
And it's not always just about work, is it? Some use it for connection.
That's a great point. Like the BlackRock executive using his commute time with his wife to connect before the evening rush and exhaustion sets in.
Even really small morning habits can matter.
Definitely. Charles Duhigg in The Power of Habit found the link between just making your bed and better productivity.
Really? Making your bed?
Yeah. Looks like a small win, task completed right at the start, sets a positive tone, maybe makes it easier to stack other good habits on top.
Interesting. And beyond tasks, there are practices for well-being, mental prep.
Absolutely. Meditation comes up a lot. Manisha Thakur uses transcendental meditation, says it clears her mind. Mindful productivity also highlights it for clarity, calm, focus. Others mention things like writing down what you're grateful for, what you're looking forward to. Tim Ferriss talks about stuff like that. It's about consciously setting your mental state for the day.
So the morning sets the tone, focus, connection, clarity. But the day keeps going. How do people manage the rest of their time and, maybe more importantly, avoid getting totally sidetracked?
Yeah, time management's a constant struggle. That UGA publication had some really practical tips. Email, for example. Huge time drain potential.
Tell me about it.
They suggest things like dedicated time blocks for email, turning off notifications otherwise, trying the handle-it-once approach, and being ruthless with deleting or unsubscribing.
Batching tasks, removing the constant pings. Makes sense. What about people interruptions, the drop-ins?
Scheduling face-to-face time is best. If someone just pops by, maybe set a quick time limit, or even just stay standing to signal it needs to be brief.
And meetings, the bane of many existences.
Yeah. Effective meetings, according to that source. Know the purpose, start and end sharp. Use an agenda, maybe even a timed one. Only invite who needs to be there. Using note takers or recordings helps too.
These are all external structures. But what about clutter? Physical, digital. That affects focus too, right?
Totally. Mindful productivity really emphasizes organizing across physical, digital, and mental spaces. Clutter affects your mood, your focus.
So decluttering your desk is a start.
Simple start, yeah. Digitally, having multiple backups makes it less scary to delete stuff. And having a system, maybe like defining 12 core areas for files, helps you find things without stress.
Okay, and the mental clutter. The thoughts constantly swirling.
That's where the idea of mise en place on your brain comes in, like a chef prepping ingredients before cooking.
Setting things up mentally.
Exactly. Getting your mental space ready, reducing stress, staying focused. Meditation helps reset that. And like David Allen said, your mind's for having ideas, not holding them.
So write them down.
Write them down fast, especially those 3 a.m. brain dumps. Get it out of your head and onto paper or a device. It stops the loop.
Speaking of things that mess with focus, procrastination, we all do it. Why?
Forbes had a piece saying it's often about avoiding discomfort. Not laziness, but avoiding that yucky feeling of starting something tough or uncertain.
Okay, that resonates. So how do you beat it?
One interesting idea from the sources is using strategic relationships, collaborative talk, breaking down a huge task by talking it through with someone else, sharing ownership. It makes it feel less overwhelming.
Leaning on others can help push past that resistance. And designing your environment seems huge for managing habits and distractions too.
James Clear hammers this home in Atomic Habits. Make good habits easy, obvious. Make bad habits hard, invisible.
Like what?
Simple stuff. Unplug the router at night if you scroll too much. Ask the waiter to box half your meal right away. These are commitment devices. They add friction to the bad habit.
Or consequences, like Thomas Frank automating that tweet if he missed a deadline.
Exactly. Adds social cost. Makes it painful not to do the thing.
And automation can actively help good habits stick.
For sure. Automatic savings transfers, website blockers, unsubscribing from tempting emails, turning off notifications, using smaller plates. All environmental design or automation making the good choice easier or removing the trigger for the bad one.
But there's a downside to all that automation too, isn't there?
There is. Atomic Habits points this out. Tech can make it too easy to just slide into passive stuff. Netflix autoplay, endless social feeds.
Yeah, the scroll hole.
Right. You have to stay mindful. James Clear even tried having his assistant reset his social media passwords weekly. Just making him consciously ask for them made him realize how often he was checking out of pure habit.
So managing your environment inside and out, it's an ongoing thing. But even with the best plans, failure happens. Setbacks are unavoidable. How do successful folks deal with that?
Yeah, the sources are pretty aligned on this. Things like that Reddit thread, breathe and reboot. Successful people generally don't see failure as like a personal attack.
It's not about them being a failure.
Exactly. It's information. Data shows you where things went wrong, where you can improve.
So it's feedback for the system.
Precisely. And when they do fall short, they push through the discomfort, figure out what happened, and tackle the weaknesses objectively. Trying to detach the emotion lets you analyze clearly.
Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way. Carl Hughes mentioned that one. That fits here too.
Perfectly. The idea that challenges, failures, they aren't just roadblocks. They can be assets. They force you to learn, adapt, find new ways. Facing hard stuff is how you grow. Quitting when it gets tough, that leads to mediocrity.
And resilience is about bouncing back quickly.
That's a critical point from Atomic Habits. Resilient people recover fast. The problem isn't slipping up, missing one workout, eating that piece of cake.
It's the spiral.
It's the all or nothing trap. Thinking, oh, I messed up, the whole day week plan is ruined, might as well give up. Missing once is an accident, missing twice, that can start a new unwanted habit. The key is getting back on track immediately. Even if it's a bad day, do something. Don't put up a zero. Just showing up keeps the consistency muscle working.
It really does all loop back to managing your mindset when things go wrong.
It does, like that Reddit thread mentioned. Acknowledge the setback, but don't let stupidity, yours or someone else's, stop you. Focus on what is in your control, your response, your next move. Napoleon Hill, in Think and Grow Rich, even listed common causes of failure: lack of purpose, not enough discipline, procrastination, indecision. Many are things you can actually work on.
Sometimes just changing how you think about the difficulty helps.
Right. That mindful productivity story about the man feeling liberated by his wheelchair.
Because without it, you'd be stuck in bed.
Yeah. He reframed a limitation into freedom. You can try that with tough habits. Focus on the benefit, not just the struggle.
And finally, external support. Accountability.
Accountability partners,
Yeah.
habit contracts, like
Right.
Thomas Frank or Margaret Cho used, they add a social cost to failing. Knowing someone's watching, or there's a consequence, makes breaking the habit hurt more now, making you more likely to stick with the good one. It uses social pressure to boost your willpower.
Wow. We've covered a ton of ground today, from that deep internal work on mindset and identity.
All the way to super practical stuff, like morning routines, managing email.
And navigating those inevitable bumps in the road, those failures.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Success isn't magic. It's built bit by bit. Consistent effort, solid systems, the right mindset.
And looking back at our sources, there are some amazing resources if you want to go deeper. We mentioned James Clear's Atomic Habits a lot, great for systems, compounding.
Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich for that foundational mindset, dealing with failure.
Insights from Laura Vanderkam on mornings, Charles Duhigg's Power of Habit, Tim Ferriss on gratitude.
Gary Keller's The One Thing for Focus. That list from Carl Hughes mentioning Ryan Holiday's Obstacle is the Way, and Clayton Christensen's How Will You Measure Your Life?
And Dr. Carol Dweck on growth mindset, Wesley Evans-Smith on mindful productivity, David Allen on capturing ideas.
It's a really solid toolkit for anyone serious about growth.
It really is. And as we wrap this up, thinking about how those tiny, consistent actions, backed by a resilient mindset, can lead to such big changes.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Exactly. So here's a thought for you to chew on. If tiny, consistent effort compounds so powerfully over time, what single small habit could you start today that, if you just kept doing it for a year, might lead to the most surprising change in your life?
Just consider that one small thing. What could it unlock?
If you found value here but haven't subscribed yet, why wait? Every subscriber fuels this channel to keep delivering the real game-changing content you need. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. And WW, don't miss out on the next episode that could change everything for you.